Hey guys, I'm David Mitchell, founder and CEO of TRADEway. What if God himself gave you a blueprint for how to handle your money? Well, the Bible is a practical book. Let's dive in and see what it has to say about wealth, about risk, about leverage, and about investing, and uncover how trading in the stock market can be a powerful tool for moving towards your biggest goals. We're so happy you're here. This is The Word on Investing. Hey guys, welcome back to our new podcast. We're so happy to have you with us today. And you know, if you were with us last time, we talked about how the Lord can turn disaster into opportunity, how he can turn fear into peace. And we talked about how these frightening bear market crashes lead to the first year of the next new bull market. And that perhaps is the greatest potential that's out there for you to earn money for you and your family. So today I want to share with you some step-by-step things that we were able to share with our students to help them know they were about to go through some really trying times. This gave them the potential to be prepared and to have cash left when we get to the bottom of this bear market crash, and to even have the potential to make some money on the way down. So this is phenomenal when you think about it, because most of your neighbors, their financial advisors, leave their money in the market all the way to the bottom of these crashes and lose 20, 30, 50% of the total money in the whole world that they have. That is not necessary. And we'd love to share with you how you can have the potential to avoid that. And really, times like this are the most important times to understand these skill sets. So let's talk about a little bit about what TRADEway advised our students to do and our clients to do during these times. Well, you know we're in a big market crash, right? I mean, this has been the deepest, fastest crash that I've seen, and I've traded for 40 years. It was pretty bad in the year 2000 when we had the tech bubble that burst. It was pretty bad in 2008 when we had the Great Recession and all of these banks were in trouble because they had bought paper that had bad mortgages tied in there. And you remember all that, right? There was a time during that time when Warren Buffett thought he was going to lose everything he had for about 2 days. And then he realized that the government had done some of the right things to save the Western economy. Well, you know, those kinds of times are really frightening. And this one is really different than any of them. So let's talk about that and what some of the steps we took were, and how we even teach you how to know what to do in times like this. Why don't we take a look at the timeline and some of the specific details of how we at TRADEway dealt with our clients and students through this time. First of all, as you know, we've been in one of the longest bull markets in history. Ever since President Trump was elected, it's just been a great bull market. And here recently, it's been really even steeper than it had been. And so we had a little bit of a correction recently, and many of our students were out of the market because one of the things we at TRADEway try to do is tell when cash is good. I mean, you don't always want to be in the market, and that's one of the big mistakes that people make when they don't have the skill sets. And of course, Wall Street wants you to be in the market all the time, so you're always reading articles where they say, oh, jump in and buy this and buy that. You just got to learn to ignore those and don't even read them. Most of that truly is junk news. So we were out of the market in cash during that little correction. So then around February 19th, 2020, we had what we thought was a pretty good opportunity to re-enter the market. The market was sort of bouncing up off the 10-day moving average, and you may not know what that means. We'll talk more about those things later. But it was a good entry point. Now, we did realize there could be a potential for systematic risk because we had heard about this virus that was going around. It wasn't really that much in the news in a frightening way yet, but we were aware it was around, and we thought, well, let's take some precautions. So we advocated pyramiding in, which means people only put half of the money they were planning to put in the market in, not all of it. That turned out to be a really good thing because just a few days later, there was a big gap down in the market. And so we had everyone stop out or exit on February 25th, and that was about a 185-point drop. And you might say, well, man, that's bad. It's like pretty bad timing on that play, wasn't it? Well, you got to remember, you don't have hindsight when you're in the market in real time. So it looked like a great time. It looked like the probability math was on our side, which that's what you go by, the probability math, just like the big boys on Wall Street. And it was really a good entry. Now, we'll discuss more about probability math later, too, because it's not difficult math like you may be thinking. But we want you to understand it's all about probability math. That's what the big boys on Wall Street use. And we're going to teach you how to do that as we go. Now, here's what happened. We did stop out. And remember that key term, because stop outs are key to managing losses. And we want to keep our losses small. And so this was a relatively small loss, and you'll see how that plays into everything that happened after that. Now remember, while our students were doing this, their neighbors were told by most of their financial advisors, oh, don't worry about this thing at all. Just buy and hold, just stay in, just hold the course is their favorite phrase. And these things always come back, and this is probably just a little correction. Don't worry about it. But even if it's a bear market, you need to hold the course anyway, because these things will always come back. Well, really, that's only a half-truth, and we're going to talk about that in the future as well, but that's what they were being told. Now, our students went to cash, and it was a 185-point drop before they could get out. That sounds bad, but let's take a look. So now, at this point, we're beginning to see the serious nature of the coronavirus and how it's affecting the world. First China, then Italy, and so forth. And so I want to tell you this story because it illustrates several really important things we're going to be talking about in the future about investing. First of all, you must be willing to take an educated risk in order to ever have the opportunity to have the potential to make money. So that was a risk. I mean, it was a risk to jump in, even though it was bouncing up off the 10-day moving average. Everything looked perfect. It's always a risk, and you never win all the time. I mean, you're going to be times when the market does not do what you thought, and that's just part of understanding how this works. Now, when you're using the probability math, you don't need to win every time, though, to have the potential to make money. So keep that in mind. So yes, this was a risk, but we need to start to learn that taking a risk is part of God's will. He tells us in the scripture we need to take educated risk. Think back about that parable you learned in Sunday school as a kid, the parable of the talents. The one man that got rebuked and punished was the one who took no risk. So think back about that. Go back and look it up in the Bible and read it if you want to. All right, now here's the second thing. When you do take risk, there are ways to manage the risk. And we can use tools like stop outs. In fact, I just gave you an example of one just a few minutes ago. You can use tools like stop outs and ideas like pyramiding in, where you only put half the money into a particular play at a time when you think, well, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy about this. I need to be a little more careful. All of these kinds of things are great at helping to reduce the risk or manage the risk. But you still have to take the risk. Now, the third point is this. From time to time, there will always be unexpected events, and these events can change the direction of the market right in the middle of one of your plays. In fact, usually when events take place that change bull markets into bear markets, they're unforeseeable events. I mean, these things are things you can watch for and things we do watch for, but you can't always predict that they're coming, but you do keep an eye out for them. So we have to expect the unexpected and be ready to take decisive action when we see something like this happening. So I'm going to continue here with the specific details of what we advise our students to do. So on February 25th, 2020, that's when we suggested going to cash. Now, what's interesting is the market began to tank. If you could see a picture of it, that was a great call because it really crashed the next 2 or 3 days. In fact, all the way down to about March the 3rd, it just went down, down, down because of this virus. Now, what's interesting is on March the 3rd, there's what we call a pullback, and these are things we can teach you to watch for too. But the market actually pulled back and went up for a couple of 3 days and went up to a major moving average that we were watching because there is a pattern out there called the kiss goodbye. You'll learn about that too. I know it sounds silly, but it's actually a pattern. It's well known and high probability pattern. And normally what will happen, it'll pull up after a couple of big days down. It'll pull up to a moving average, hit that thing, and then crash off of that. And that's why we call it a kiss goodbye. It's like it moves up, it touches that line and kisses it, and then tanks. All right. So we were watching for this. So when it moved up and hit that key moving average on March the 3rd, we actually instructed our clients to buy what we call inverse ETFs. And those are things that can make money when the market goes down. Well, the next 3 days it tanked. It just crashed. And then on March the 6th, we began to read into things going on out there in the financial world that made us feel like we had a high systemic risk problem. And by the way, systemic risk just means that you can have events happen that like a domino effect throughout the whole world and begin to affect banks, major businesses like Boeing or American Airlines, things like that, where it can ripple through and create a situation where it's very dangerous to even be in the markets. We began to see a heightened systemic risk probability. So we instructed our students to go ahead and sell those inverse positions. We'd made good money on those and to get out and just go to cash. So on March the 6th, we suggested that all of our students go to cash. What's interesting about that is that during that time, if you look at the very first point where we first went to cash, we had TRADEway students and clients in cash 27 days before this market hit its bottom. And when it hit the bottom on March 23rd, there had been 35.4% of the money lost. In other words, your neighbor who kept his money in all the way lost 35% of his total money in the whole world that was in the market. Our guys were in cash throughout most of that fall. All right, so we had suggested that our clients be in cash during a 1,003-point drop in the S&P. Now, except for one little time period in there from March 3rd to March 6th when they were actually advised to be in inverse positions. And at that time, the market fell another 168 points. But our clients had the potential to make money while it was going down during those 3 days through these inverse positions. Then we said go to cash. So if you take a look at that and you say, well, we were in cash for about 1,003 points, and you add the 168 points where they had the potential to make money while it was still going down, that is a 1,170 point move. And remember that your neighbor kept their money in all the way down and lost money during that entire time. Now let's do this. Now remember, we had a 185 point drop where we had to stop out, but you got to keep in mind we had pyramided in, so we only lost half of what we would have on that. So that's a 92.5 point loss. So let's subtract that out. So you take 1,171 points, you take out the 92.5. So that's still a 1,078.5 point savings that clients who went to cash and perhaps this 3-day inverse play had over their neighbors. So think about that. That's 1,078 points of downward market move that you could have avoided if you had just known when and how to go to cash. And that's one of the great things about TRADEway. We do not believe we should always be in the market. There are times when being in cash is the best trade there is. And we love to help you know that. I mean, we have a thing called the Insider Program where we send out market alerts, and we call it a squirrel market when it's so squirrely that we don't advocate being in the market. And being in cash is really sometimes a really wonderful position. So to sum it up, this was about 1,171 point move down, and people had the potential to actually be winning on that, or at least not losing the money on that. And it was the fastest bear market crash in my 40 years experience. So think about that. I know the stock market sounds frightening sometimes, but a lot of that's because we lack knowledge. But when you have the knowledge to learn how to manage risk, you can often see things coming. Now, if you remember in this example, we had to stop out, so we didn't see it coming in the sense of telling the future. It's just that when we had that little 185 point drop after we had just jumped in the market, we knew what to do. We knew to stop that out, and we knew when to go to cash, and we knew when we could do an inverse position. And even those were just probability plays. They don't always work. But knowing the skill sets is what gives you the peace and confidence to take educated risk. And the Bible is full of examples and teachings where the Lord says he wants us to take educated risk. And that's why he put the risk-return trade-off principle out there in the universe. And you can't get away from it any more than you can get away from gravity. So maybe that's a good reason for you to go out to TRADEway.com and check out a couple of really cool things. Like we've got this thing called a Step 1 Start Your Journey. It's a live virtual event. You can do this from the safety and comfort of your own home. And listen, after that 2-day event, you will know more than maybe your stockbroker. You might know some things that even your financial advisor doesn't even know. And these things can start to give you the confidence and the skill sets that you need to have the potential to change your finances down through the generations. Another way to get involved with TRADEway is to go out and sign up for the next Trade in 30 Days challenge. That is an amazing thing where you actually have coaching and you have all sorts of things going on to help you actually take each step for 30 days to have the potential to change your family's financial future. And just remember, you can register for the Step 1 Start Your Journey or the Trade in 30 Days Challenge at TRADEway.com. So let's sum this up just for a moment. Okay, now think about this. We just went through an actual real-life example of how the stock market is risky, but we also showed how you can manage this risk. When you have the skill sets, you learn how to manage risk. You learn how to use stop-outs and how to limit the losses when the market doesn't go the way you thought it would. And then how do you react? How do you have the skills to react decisively and do the right thing next? And so remember too, that later on when you start learning how this probability math works, it means that you don't have to get it right every time to have the potential to make money in the stock market. If you got it right, say 6 out of 10 times, you have the potential to make money because you're going to keep the rules. And there are set rules. We're going to teach you how the big boys trade. We're going to teach you how our family has traded for 4 generations and how to get that math on your side. So just remember, we're going to start kind of edging you over the line a little bit, getting you a little bit more comfortable with risk taking, but it's always educated risk taking. And I believe the Lord will bless that because he says in his word that he'll bless it. Now, we've got some frightening things going on in the world around us right now. Many of us are hunkered in our own homes, maybe going a little stir crazy, but thankful that we're healthy and wondering what the future holds and all of that. And I want to spend a little bit of time. Remember, this is called the Word on Investing. I would like to get into the Word of God a little bit here. And let's talk about what the Lord says about times like this. And remember, so much of these beautiful biblical principles that we've always known, one thing we never learn in church is how it relates to real life and our actual business activities. So much of the Bible, God teaches us spiritual truths through farming examples. What is a farm? It's a family business. There are family business principles all through the Bible. And so often when the Lord gives us comforting information, it's comforting his people on when they're losing money or when they have the fear of losing money or what to do when things seem dire, that he's always in control and he's right there and he never leaves us by ourselves. He's always going to use a closed door to show us the next open door. So we'll talk about that more in the future. So I just want to point out, if you really want to learn in depth the things that we discuss on this show, go out to TRADEway.com and sign up for the Step 1 Start Your Journey live virtual 2-day event. It is amazing. You'll be surprised what you can learn in just 2 days. Or you can go out and sign up for the Trade in 30 Days Challenge. That is super because you've got coaches along the way. You've got something to do, guidelines for every single day for 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, all of a sudden you've got the potential to know how to change your family's financial future. And you can register for either at TRADEway.com or you can call 877-907-TRADE. That's 877-907-TRADE or TRADEway.com. It's only $99.95 for this great 2-day event, and that's for your whole family, everyone that lives in your household. Plus, we're going to give you an extra ticket free so you can share it with a friend or loved one, and they can join us at this event from the comfort and safety of their home as well. So if you enjoyed this time together, please go out and rate and review this podcast because it's a great way for like-minded people to find us. And always remember, we're in God's hands, and he has a great plan for our country and a great plan for you and